Welcome to the Goodyear City Council meeting. We're excited to have you be a part of this important public process. Tonight, you will have the opportunity to address City Council on both non-agenda and agenda items. You must fill out a speaker request card in order to address the City Council. The agendas and speaker request cards are located in the back of the council chambers. Please drop your completed card in the tray next to the blank speaker cards. If the meeting has already begun, please hand it to the city employee at the back of the room. You may check the "I do not wish to speak" option on the card. This allows you to let council know your opinion without having to speak. In accordance with the Americans with Disabilities Act, please contact a staff member if you need any assistance. Public comment on a non-agenda item will take place during the citizen comment portion of the evening. These are items that don't appear on tonight's formal agenda. The city clerk will call your name when it's time for you to speak. At that time, please approach the podium and tell us your name for the record. You'll have a maximum of 3 minutes. The timer is on the screens visible from the podium. Note that you may also choose not to speak if other speakers before you have said what you wanted to say. Shouting, cheering, and loud noises will not be tolerated, and violators may be removed for disrupting the meeting. Goodyear City Council meetings stream live on Facebook, YouTube, X, and online at goodyearaz.gov. Follow the city's social media pages so you don't miss out on all that's happening in Goodyear. Thank you for coming to this meeting and being an active part of your city. And remember, it's a great time to be in Goodyear.
Meeting to order for January 26, 2026. Take roll call.
Let the record reflect that all members are present.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Almighty Father, I ask you to provide wisdom to all those on the City Council so that we make wise decisions for our community. Also that you help heal this nation which suffers from a lack of civility so that we can come together as a nation and work towards a more civil society for the betterment of all. Please protect our men and women in uniform serving here and overseas from injury and provide those in this meeting safe passage home. In your name, amen. We had one communication item tonight to recognize Police Officer Michael Gilbo, I'll get it pronounced correctly, for 20 years of service with the Goodyear Police Department. He was unable to attend unexpectedly, and staff would like to pull this item and bring it back for a future meeting. Okay, so that one's going to be pulled. Now is the time for members of the public who wish to address the City Council on any non-agenda items within the jurisdiction of the City of Goodyear Council. Any speaker cards?
Yes, Mayor. Alan Glazer.
My name is Alan Glazer from Faith Law, right over there.
Okay.
Dear council members and respected staff, our firm represents Bonnie Lewis, successor co-trustee over the Vernon F. Lewis Trust, who is a property owner of 300 East La Crescenta Avenue. Many of you may know Bonnie Lewis as Goodyear's 2024 Citizen of the Year and owner of Catitude Arts. Mrs. Lewis is asking City Council to research and approve a new overlay district called the Harriet Morton Homes Art Overlay District to allow for small-scale, low-impact, and cultural businesses to operate on the south side of East Santa Cruz Drive. This overlay district would affect 12 properties and be optional for the property owners to opt in. Harriet M. Homes had a large impact on Arizona and especially the West Valley. Harriet graduated from Stanford in the late 1800s and became one of, if not the first female artist in the Arizona territory. Her exhibits have been shown in museums and venues all over the state. Bonnie Lewis's family ties with the Homes date back as far as 1910. As a fellow resident of this neighborhood, Mrs. Lewis cares deeply about the character and future of this neighborhood. While this neighborhood is currently zoned for residential use, it is important to acknowledge that over the past several years, commercial and industrial uses have encroached into this area. The Harriet Morton Homes Art Overlay District could act as a much-needed buffer between commercial and industrial uses and the residential neighborhood. Although Goodyear currently does not have an overlay district, overlay districts are becoming more and more popular in the Phoenix metropolitan area. A few examples are the Phoenix Arts and Cultural and Business Overlay in downtown Phoenix, the Surprise Heritage District, and the Mesa Historic District. An overlay district does not change the underlying zoning, rather it adds an additional layer of standards and requirements to protect character and architecture of the neighborhood. An overlay district does not prevent change, rather ensures that future changes are compatible with the general plan and done in a way that protects the neighborhood. The Harriet Morton Homes Art Overlay District will be consistent with the city's general plan of 2035, and this neighborhood is listed as a village center mobility corridor. This neighborhood is also fortunate to have ample parking available within close walking distance. There is a street parking on Western Avenue and a sizable public parking lot on East Pico Boulevard. Ms. Lewis has already hosted a public neighborhood meeting and has sent notifications by certified and regular mail to the 12 property owners that would be included in the Harriet Morton Homes Art Overlay District. A majority of these responding expressed their support. Our hope is that the City Council would direct staff to review this proposal.
Thank you. Can you provide back to him what needs to be taken? I visited that place. She's done a nice job inside that house. So can you find out what's needed for that to happen?
Yes, we will. Mr. Mayor will follow up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. With that, will the city clerk please read consent agenda items 2 through 10 by title only?
Item 2, approval of minutes. Item 3, approval of Series 12 restaurant liquor license for Cura Revolving Sushi Bar. Item 4, approval of Series 12 restaurant liquor license for Cutting Edge at Holiday Inn. Item 5, approval of budget amendments and related expenditure authority. Item 6, approval of intergovernmental agreement IGA with Maricopa County for right-of-way assistance for roadway improvements on Saraville Avenue CIP project number 42048. Item 7, approval of intergovernmental agreement IGA between West Valley agencies for use of fire apparatus. Item 8, adopt resolution number 2026-2500, adopting a 2026 state and federal legislative agenda and providing authorization to the city manager or designee to take action. Item 9, adopt resolution number 2026-2501, authorizing the city manager or their designee to execute a license agreement between the City of Goodyear and Light Source Communications LLC, a Michigan limited liability company, and to enter into separate agreements for in-kind exchanges, which may include fiber and/or conduit for the city's exclusive use. And item 10, adopt resolution number 2026-2502, designating the chief fiscal officer for officially submitting the fiscal year 2025 expenditure limitation report to the Arizona Auditor General.
Thank you. Does anybody wish to remove an item? I see none. Any speaker cards regarding this?
No, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. The city council, please enter a motion in a second. Vice Mayor's on there and Councilmember Campbell. Okay, with that, can you go ahead and open it up? Passes 7-0. Thank you. We have 4 public hearings tonight. First public hearing is to consider a new class bingo license. Open the public hearing. Please introduce yourself for the public.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Viviana Monge, Deputy City Clerk. Before you tonight is a Class A bingo license application submitted by Corinne Miglietto, President of the Pebble Creek Tuesday Bingo. Bingo is regulated by the Arizona Department of Revenue and requires a municipal hearing for any new application. The City Clerk's office received the application on January 5th, 2026, placing it within the required 45-day hearing window. The organization previously held a bingo license which has expired and requires a new application. Games are proposed to be held at the Pebble Creek Community Clubhouse, Eagles Nest at 3657 Clubhouse Drive on the 3rd and 4th Tuesday of each month, and when applicable on the 5th Tuesday. As part of the review process, this application was reviewed by the Police Department, Development Services, which includes planning and zoning, code compliance, and building safety, and there were no concerns. Council's recommendation will be forwarded to the Arizona Department of Revenue, and staff recommends council approve the Class A bingo license. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions. The applicant is also present if you have any questions. as
Any
well.
speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
For the applicant, let's wait to see if there's any questions for you, okay? With that, anybody in the audience like to speak? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Will the city council enter a motion in a second to recommend approval of Arizona Department of Revenue for a Class A bingo license for the Pebble Creek Tuesday Bingo for bingo games held at 3657 Clubhouse Drive, Goodyear, Arizona, 85395. I see a motion and a second up on the board. Open for discussion. Seeing none, open for vote. Passes 7-0. Thank you. Our next public hearing is to consider the Rio 1900 Minor General Plan Amendment. Open the public hearing. Please introduce yourself for the public.
Yes, good evening, Mayor Pizzillo and council members. I'm Ann Dolmage, Principal Planner. I have two items for you tonight, a general plan amendment and a rezone. And since they're in support of the same project, which is Rio 1900, I would like to present them together. So the current zoning of the project site is King Ranch Planned Area Development, or PAD, and it was approved in 2005 and then amended in 2006. And we have a land use map here, which is from the 2006 amendment. The zoning allowed for a mix of uses, including single-family residential, multifamily residential, commercial, civic, open space, and a community center. So the King Ranch PAD permitted about 1,155 acres of residential uses. On an acreage basis, estate and conventional single-family were expected to make up the majority of the residential. Densities would have ranged from a little under 4 units per acre for custom and estate single-family homes to up to 5 units per acre for conventional single-family, and 7 to 10 units per acre or above for condos, townhomes, and multifamily units. And altogether, the maximum units would have been 4,250 across all housing types. Per the King Ranch PAD, about 46 acres of commercial uses would have been provided. These commercial areas were planned to cluster on Cotton Lane and Estrella Parkway at major intersections. The King Ranch PAD also included about 630 acres of open space to include a community park, the El Rio Trail and Trailhead Park, and smaller neighborhood and local parks, trails, a community center, and a habitat mitigation area. So under the current rezone proposal, a new planned area development would be established, known as Rio 1900. The new PAD would implement a layered land use approach and set up some modified development standards and use permissions, and we'll learn more about these on the following slides. So again, the Rio 1900 PAD will establish 7 land use character areas, or LUCAs. Each LUCA allows for specific zoning districts and uses within its boundaries. The groups are layered over each other and are intended to show where certain uses may be located, not necessarily where they will be located. And we'll start with the open space LUCA. This covers the entirety of Rio 1900, and it will be compatible with all zoning districts. Open space can include steep hillsides, natural space, drainage areas, parks, trails, and similar uses. The civic use LUCA covers most of Rio 1900 except for the Gila River floodway and major drainage corridors. It's compatible with a public facilities district, or PFD, and it will allow schools, community centers, fire stations, and other public or quasi-public uses. The estate residential Luca is intended for large lot, single-family homes, and it's compatible with the AU and R110 zoning districts. And you can see these areas are oriented toward the hilly part of the project area between Cotton Lane and Estrella Parkway, and at the far south end of the PAD. The Village Neighborhood Luca is intended for low to medium density residential, including detached and attached single-family homes, court homes, and two-family homes. And compatible zoning districts are R14 through R17, R1A, R1C, and R2. The Urban Neighborhood Luca is intended for multifamily residential uses, and the compatible zoning districts are MF12 through MF24. And a maximum of 1,907 multifamily units will be permitted within Rio 1900. The Commercial Activity Center Luca is intended for commercial, office, and medical uses, and the compatible districts are CO, C1, and C2. Both this commercial and activity center and the urban neighborhood Luca are oriented toward Cotton Lane and Estrella Parkway, as well as the collector roads that connect to those arterials. And finally, the resort Luca could accommodate a resort hotel. It's compatible with the C2 district, but it has a customized and limited selection of uses and specific standards for quality and amenities. The applicant has provided a conceptual land use plan showing a likely scenario for the development of Rio 1900. And again, this is conceptual because the Luca approach allows for development flexibility. But I will give you some takeaways. Collector roads are likely to be laid out as shown. The conceptual land use plan shows approximately 92 acres of commercial, although the PAD will require 25. On an acreage basis, most residential will likely be medium density, which is R14 through R17. That's approximately 565 acres. Multifamily is expected to occupy approximately 110 acres. And a resort is not shown because its development will be contingent on whether market demand exists for that use. So the rezone is proposing several revised development standards, and I'll just summarize them here. Modified lot sizes, widths, depths, and setbacks for some districts, and modified lot coverage for all districts. At least 17% of single-family residential must be in open space, and at least half of that must be usable open space. And at least 100 acres of the estate residential Luca shall use either the AU or the R110 zoning. So modifications for the multifamily residential include flexible building heights in the MF12 district when pitched roofs are used, modified rear setbacks for MF12, modified setbacks from single-family residential for MF12, and increased lot width for MF24. In the commercial and civic areas, as I said before, a minimum of 25 acres of the Commercial Activity Center Luca will use CO, C1, and or C2 zoning. A new fire station site will be dedicated, and 2 new elementary school sites will also be provided. And should a resort be built within the resort Luca, it will utilize the C2 zoning and development standards, but there will be a limited list of resort compatible uses that will be allowed. The project site does contain several hillside areas which are defined as 20% or greater slope. At least 50% of these hillside areas shall be preserved as open space, and up to 30% of preserved open space may be disturbed and revegetated, provided the revegetation matches the natural state. So as with the King Ranch PAD zoning, Rio 1900 includes extensive open space, and we have a conceptual open space diagram here for you. The El Rio Trail and Linear Park will run along the south side of the Gila River. A neighborhood park with trailhead will be constructed next to this trail. Both the trailhead and the trail itself will be open to the public. Additionally, a community park, approximately 30 acres in size, will be constructed within the PAD and also open to the public. Oh, I'm sorry. And finally, additional trails, trailheads, local and neighborhood parks, and amenity areas will be provided throughout the PAD area. In total, at least 30% of the PAD will be open space. So in addition to the rezone request, the applicant is also seeking approval of a minor general plan amendment for 31 acres within the Rio 1900 project area. This amendment would change the designation of those 31 acres from open space to neighborhoods. And on this slide, you can see the location of the general plan amendment site relative to the remainder of Rio 1900. And we have another slide showing the before and after for the minor general plan amendment. You can see that most of the Rio 1900 area is already in the neighborhoods district. I'm sorry, the neighborhoods land use designation. A neighborhood meeting was held for both the rezone and the general plan amendment on July 8th. And additionally, staff have received several emails and calls about the project. Concerns from the public have included housing density, types of housing and commercial expected, transportation issues such as the timing of the Cotton Lane widening, and protections for hillsides and habitats. And some neighbors in Estrella are especially interested in the potential for a resort next to their community. Additionally, Liberty Elementary School District and Buckeye Union High School District have been notified. They did not have any comments. These districts did sign an agreement of understanding with King Ranch in 2004 for the donation of elementary school sites and payment of fees for residential units. And Rio 1900 intends to follow this agreement or any new agreements that may be created between these parties. The project also had a public hearing at the Planning and Zoning Commission on December 3rd. Again, several members of the public spoke on topics including traffic and transportation and circulation, water, stormwater and drainage, residential density, and impacts to the Estrella community. The commission voted to recommend approval 6-0 with 1 member absent for both the rezone and the general plan amendment. And finally, staff recommends approval of the rezone from King Ranch Planned Area Development to the Rio 1900 Planned Area Development, subject to the proposed stipulations. And I do want to note that the ordinance has a scrivener's error for stipulation number 1. It says that the date of the PAD regulatory booklet is November 2025, and that should be January 2026. So we are asking for council to accept that change as well. And we also recommend approval of the minor general plan amendment of 31 acres from open space to neighborhoods. And this concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions, and the applicant is also here with a presentation. So thank you.
Thank you. Are there any speaker cards?
Yes, Mayor, there are. Lowenstein Walker. Okay.
No?
Jim King.
Hello, if you just mention your name or you're a resident, of the city, and you got 3 minutes.
I'll start off. My name is Jim King Jr., and I live at Litchfield Park, unfortunately. That has to do with my wife, but that saved the marriage. But anyway, and what else information did you need?
Let's go. Go for it. You got 3 minutes.
I'm going to kind of briefly lead into the fact of how we happen to be here to begin with. And it goes back to a senior who came here during the war years and worked at the war plant. And it's interesting, at the war plant they couldn't get the wings to adapt to the airplanes wherever they sent it. So he, without much education, figured out how to adapt the wings so it would fit. And then he would have to spend the night at the plant to make sure that his apparatus didn't get sabotaged by the night crew because they were afraid they were going to lose their jobs. But they didn't realize the plant was going to close. And if the plant closed, they would all probably have been shipped to the Pacific, and a lot of them probably wouldn't make it back. But anyway, fast forward from that period of time, Laddie Cooper, who was the superintendent of the grade school, asked Jim King Sr. to be the scout leader. And so he was a former Eagle Scout, and he volunteered, and he used to take his scouts across the Gila River. And at the time, the Gila River wasn't this ugly scar that it is now. It had water in it, and it had a lot of wildlife, and it was. But he fell in love with this piece of property that eventually became King Ranch, and so he figured out how to. It was rough ground. It wasn't a farm then. And he figured out how to go about to the state to lease it and eventually put in wells and level the ground. But he didn't realize that there was a group of hunters that didn't really appreciate losing their hunting ground. So after he got his improvements put in, they came and shot up his wells and ruined his ditches. And so he finally had to have somebody living on the ranch and to protect his interests. But fast forward, the city of Tolleson went before the county to have the first county park. And so my dad got aware of that, and he thought, you know, Goodyear needs the first county park. And so he went to work and got the 12,000 acres, which is now Australia Mountain Ranch, or not Australia Mountain Ranch, but Australia Mountain Park, adopted from the Bureau of Land Management. But the problem was, you know, there was no roads there. It was on the other side of the river. And so he had a hard sell, but he was to get, but Caterpillar Proving Grounds was up on the side of the White Tanks. So he was able to get them to bring their heavy equipment down and rough in the roads and rough in the initial park. So he was successfully able to, and the county eventually built a bridge. And so that's kind of the backstory of Australia Mountain Park. But he thought, you know, if you got a park, you have to have a golf course, you know, and there wasn't a golf course on every corner back in those days. So he and a bunch of farmers.
We're over.
Excuse me?
Over the time. Over the time. Can you close it up real quick?
Oh, yes. Okay, so I need to be your historian. So anyway, I speak in favor of the project. I think it's extremely unique. The King Ranch, I think they need to keep it the King Ranch, but I like that name. But the fact is that it's a wonderful opportunity because it is the gateway to Australia. It's the gateway to the future, complete future of the city of Goodyear. And it's nice to have somebody like Harvard who has an interest in Australia also to be very conscious of their window. So anyway, thank you, council people.
Thank you.
I did one last thing. I brought, you could blame it all on this guy.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's his dad.
That's your dad?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Any other?
No, Mayor.
Okay, now on the applicant, does the applicant want to right now do it, or you're gonna wait to, you want to give a presentation? Yes. Okay, come on up. We'll set the timer. You got 10 minutes.
Okay. Well, I don't think Jim actually had to introduce himself, but for your record, I probably do. Brian Greathouse.
Yes.
With the law firm Birch and Cracchiolo. Our firm represents Harvard Investments. Harvard, as you know, is the developer of Australia Mountain Ranch, very reputable developer and builder of communities. And I think it's great that they've been partnering with the city for so many years and also on this Rio 1900 case. We're okay with stipulations 1 through 20, okay with the modification to stip 1 that was presented earlier with the new date, and we appreciate your planning commission's and staff's recommendations of approval. What we've tried to do here is, I don't think the King Ranch PAD was a failure per se, but it failed to launch, if you will, because it was approved 20 years ago. The city's different now today. Housing needs are different now today. Amenities and things have changed a lot since then. We have new transportation corridors. So that's why we've brought forward this new development that we called Rio 1900. And we tried to call it Rio rather than King Ranch. No offense, Jim. And Jim's been great to work with through this process also, by the way. But we wanted to call it Rio to kind of relaunch it again. And Rio, as you all know, kind of plays into the Rio Reimagined, all this great stuff that's master planned and planned and looked at along the Gila River, including trails and habitats and education and stuff like that. So that's why we're here today talking about Rio 1900. We'd ask that we try to focus on what we're proposing today rather than what's outdated and was approved 20 years ago. I mentioned the new transportation corridors. We have the new future SR 30 coming in north of Rio. As you know, Cotton Lane is an extension of the 303 that didn't exist in 2005. And we're right along the Gila River here. What this is all about is about trails, parks, and open space, and that's what our talented planners have been pushing and focusing on here for this development. Ann mentioned the El Rio Trail that will be developed along the riverside. There's also a linear park, which acts like a linear trail down the center or the spine of the development. And that, along with different trails that go north-south, really connect this community to the community park, commercial spaces, neighborhood parks, residential areas, and the 2 school sites. So everything's supposed to allow you to walk through this community without having to walk near streets. Here's an example of the trailhead up on the top right. It's over 4 miles, and it'll have a hard surface trail and then a soft trail. We're also developing a minimum 5-acre trailhead that will be accessible to the public. We're donating a 30-acre city park. There will be a series of neighborhood parks within the communities, and then each individual subdivision will have its own local park that will cater to that type of demographic that's going to live in that individual community. This isn't the final entrance gateway concept, but it's something that's being considered. It's supposed to be open, it's supposed to kind of celebrate that outdoorsy feel in a rustic kind of setting. As was just presented, we have a variety of housing types, from traditional single family, like are the ones on the top right of the screen here, to large lot estate residential. That could be anywhere from about 80 wide to larger custom lots. And that is the area where there may be opportunities for executive housing that we've heard is such a need in the city. And then urban residential uses, something like these, I almost said southeast corner, but the bottom right-hand corner of this slide. With respect to commercial, this is an early concept we wanted to show you rather than just show you a red bubble on the plan. This plan has a grocery store. There will probably be a series of pads and retail shops that are anchored by that grocery store. And we show some office here as well. On the east side, we have a fitness center and some other commercial pads, just to show you an idea of how that could live right there next to the city park. And as you heard, we're donating a fire station and 2 school sites, and we've talked to the school district, and they're very excited about those. I believe that's it, and we request your approval here tonight. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay, thank you. You go have a seat, and if so, they'll call you back up. Okay, Brian?
Thank you.
All right, with that, I'm gonna go ahead and close the public hearing. City Clerk, please read resolution number 2026-2503 by title only.
Adopt resolution number 2026-2503, approving a minor amendment to the City of Goodyear General Plan 2035 to amend the land use designation of approximately 31 acres generally located south of the Gila River, west of Cotton Lane, and currently adjacent to Assessor's Parcel Number 400-03-002C and south of Assessor's Parcel Number 502-59-007A from open space to neighborhoods.
Thank you. City Council, please enter a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 2026-2503. I see a motion and a second. Just for the public, this is the first time any of us have seen this. They've met with us multiple times. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open, and the first one up is Councilmember Terry.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess I can start with staff. It was brought up, the phasing and the timing in regards to Cotton Lane. And I know this is also probably for the developer as well, but where are we as far as phasing and timing when it comes to the Estrella Bridge, everything else? Again, Estrella has limited numbers of ways in and out.
Yeah.
I said staff. That's a
That's
very
okay.
overly broad statement, so I guess Steve applies here too. My question here is, can we speak to the timing when it comes to not only Cotton Lane, but Estrella Bridge, the light at Vineyard, any potential work in regards to further south with 14 and the roundabout? Just what's the general timing that we're potentially looking at?
Good evening, Mayor, Councilmember Terry, Steve Cinto, City Engineer. To give you some updates on that, we're still planning on starting construction for both the bridge project and Cotton Lane this calendar year. And as far as how that corresponds to the development timeline, maybe I could get an assist from the developer, but that will be coordinated.
Are we looking at doing Cotton and Estrella at the same time still, or how's that?
The exact timeframe won't be set in stone until we have some contractors on board, but the plan is to coordinate it to where the bridge, we are going to leave it open while we construct the other side. So it's not going to impact the traffic necessarily on the bridge while we construct that.
Okay.
And so there'll always be at least the level of access that there is today while we construct it, minus maybe like a day or two where we have some tie-ins, if that makes sense.
And then the question that, Brian, if you could.
I believe the question I'm being asked is how does that fall into play with when
Roadways,
construction's occurring?
timelines, yeah.
So Harvard anticipates construction to start in 2027 sometime. That's horizontal work, and that would put a first home delivery in around 2029. And I believe, based on the websites and the information, I think both of those projects should mostly be wrapped up by then.
If everything goes as planned.
Okay. I guess since I have you here, I won't make you get down and hop back up. There's multifamily included in this. There's single-family homes. There's estate homes, the much larger. Going back of what the plan was 20-plus years ago, this was zoned. I know we've dealt with multiple hearings, but just for the public, you know, once something's zoned as a city, we can't just completely block development. That's we have to work with the developer when they do a rezone here. So the previous one allowed multifamily when it came to apartments, condos, townhomes up to around 100 acres. This is somewhere around 110, so a very slight increase, but there's a unit cap. Is that correct?
Yes.
On potential multifamily that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that not just apartments, it's condos, townhomes, similar things you see in Verado or Kierland Commons or those sorts of things. Is that correct?
That's correct. At the Planning Commission, it was recommended for approval without a unit cap. And then since then, we have offered a unit cap of 1,907 units of what would fall under that multifamily category. That would be the MF12 category, MF18, and MF24. So that goes all the way from like the rental townhome concepts to a three-story apartment.
I appreciate you mentioning the addition of that stipulation. I appreciate your time over the last couple months in our meetings and appreciate you adding that. I guess a little math here when it comes to the allowance of multifamily over 100 plus acres, yet you have a unit cap. Effectively, what does that do if you try to maximize, say you did MF24, just packed in to one specific spot, whereas you still have another 108 acres? What effectively does that unit count with the acreage do when it comes to the incentivization of what kind of multifamily is going to dominate that area?
I don't know if I 100% follow that question.
Sorry.
But let's, I think I'm being asked if there's a
I get all over the place. So.
if there's a parcel that gets instead of spreading out all the multifamily across the areas where it could be developed, if it was more concentrated in one specific area, what would that look like?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's still a density requirement for like MF24, for example. It couldn't be over 24 dwelling units per acre.
Mm-hmm.
So it can't get too intense without meeting all the regulations of the zoning ordinance. We don't know yet which ones, like rental townhomes, for example, that might have a garage underneath and a living area up top. That would fall under the MF12 category. We don't know exactly where the zoning districts will go within the LUCA that was presented for multifamily, but I anticipate, and what we most commonly see is around the commercial centers is where the density is largest, and then from there it transitions into the single family home areas. And I have a slide on our presentation behind the conclusion that's a DC Ranch example with obviously, millions of dollars of homes up there, and the same scheme is in really expensive, nice communities as it is throughout the whole city. They transition from development from the commercial areas out into lower density.
I think to rephrase, just to wrap that line up, just a little of the back of the napkin math. If you were to do MF24 over the course of 4 or 5 acres, you're down to 12 units an acre, pretty much, with that 1,900 unit cap. Over other places where that's not stipulated in there, but that cap plus the acreage allows that to, I guess, reassure residents that this isn't all going to be just an apartment complex or something like that. You're looking condos, townhomes, something I know we've heard a lot about from our residents. We've heard a lot about from the business community, that we have that missing middle when it comes to housing, those condos, those townhomes that younger folks can hopefully afford to buy or get into, and therefore start to build some equity instead of renting their entire lives. And again, Verrado has a ton of this type of housing. North Scottsdale has a ton of this type of housing. On the other end of that housing ledger, the previous zoning was large when it came to estate homes, 10,000 square feet lots or more. Where are we at with this plan? Do you recall the size that you are devoting to that? And I ask because when we talk about hearing from the community, especially business owners and hospitals, we have Abrazo, we have City of Hope, Banner is looking at moving in just down the highway. Something I hear a lot from the medical community is there's nowhere in Goodyear for doctors to live. There's nowhere in Goodyear for business owners to live. Some of those nicer homes, custom homes, or something to that effect. What does this plan do, and as far as that potential housing type?
the comparable estate residential category that you were describing in the King Ranch PAD is what we call estate residential, and that was presented by Ann earlier. That land use character area, Luca, is a total of 410 acres. So we have 410 acres of opportunity for higher end, nicer housing like you're describing. And all the houses in here will be very nice, right? Like, not just this specific area. Harvard intends this to be a very upscale community. Of those 430 acres, we've agreed to an additional restriction of, it has to be a minimum of 100 acres.
Okay. All right, so minimum 100 acres, okay. And then I think that's all for you. I just want to thank you for working, and you've mentioned it, Harvard, it's the same group that is developing Estrella, same group there. So in no way would they would be disincentivized to do anything that kind of harms or tries to limit the quality of life or travel for folks in Estrella as they're looking to build and expand and sell more homes there as well. So I appreciate your work. City Manager, I don't see Barb here, but I did have a water question.
We have Anthony here.
Anthony, yeah. Okay. Apologize for throwing you on the spot, Anthony. I just wanted you to be able to speak to the water assurances here. You know, we talked water quite a bit in the last month or two. Where are we at with City of Goodyear as our total water allotment, and just ensuring that what we have easily covers any potential development here when it comes to our 100-year assurances?
Good evening, Mayor.
A little closer.
Councilman Terry.
Is that on?
What's that?
A little closer.
How about now? That's better?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Councilman Terry. We do have the water needed to support. We did go over the allocations that were previous and back in, I think, 2005. And looking at Rio did reconfigure their design to make sure that the allocation that we have for that parcel did meet our standards.
Okay. I just wanted to, you know, I don't ask on every zoning, but every now and then I like to ask just to reassure folks watching that water is always top of mind when it comes to these cases. And then I guess on that effect, I don't know if it's you or Katie, but we are implementing our impact fees, our development impact fees to cover the creation of these, when it comes to our end, to the extent possible, the being able to deliver water to these new residents and create that infrastructure. Is that correct?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Terry. This development is not currently in our water and sewer infrastructure development impact fee area, but we do have a stipulation that they basically they either need to build everything on their own or they need to come into our development impact fee area, which we anticipate we'll be working with them.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure that that's covered, though, just to make sure with all the new infrastructure that it is being paid for with the development.
Yes.
Okay. All right, that's all I have, Mayor.
Councilmember Kano?
Well, first off, I wanted to thank Jim King for your comments. It's great bit of history, and would love to see you do one of the P.W. Litchfield Heritage Center talks that they do right here in City Council. That would be a lot of fun. But certainly that property is very unique and very historic and will probably, for locals, be forever known as King's Ranch. But it's fun to learn about the history. This is a big piece of property, 1,900 acres. It looks to be a long-term project. And see a nod, thank you. And I just want to thank staff for this Luca concept. It creates a lot of flexibility because this project will come in over time and allows the developer to respond to market demands and what the customers want and keep the development progressing in a really modern way, depending on what's driving it. I think everything that you have in terms of amenities really captures that heart and vision of Estrella, and it's a great project, so thank you very much.
Councilmember Beckles?
Yes, just a few questions. Will the development alter any water flow or increase any flood risk in the area?
Councilmember Beckles, thank you for the question. The developer, Harvard, will be going through what's known as a Clomer-Lomer process to modify the maps, the floodplain maps. They'll be submitting drainage reports and doing bank protection along the river, but no negative impacts.
Okay. And are these, will any of the homes or apartments be closer to other homes that are in other subdivisions?
Are you referring to existing subdivisions? Estrella Mountain Ranch primarily. There are a couple different Lucas that are adjacent to single-family homes that exist today. One area, the area west of Cotton Lane, we've added in regulations where the homes that are abutting the existing homes have to be the same lot width. So we can't put smaller lots next to a larger lot. So they'll be compatible and consistent and complementary to each other. And then on the east side of Cotton Lane, we've added in this is on the screen is what I was just describing. And then on the east side of Cotton Lane, there's a 100-foot no build area behind the existing home. So we've tried to be considerate to those.
Okay. So, and I just have a comment. I am excited about the possibility of condos. I've talked to a lot of people, older people as well as young people that have finished school and have the funds for a condo but don't necessarily want a home, and older people who don't want a home but would love to have a condo. So I just like to say that that there is a need and an interest in condos. And then finally, I think this project is a good opportunity for Goodyear because it brings a balance of mixed housing, commercial space, parks, and open space that actually kind of strengthens the character of Goodyear and the community long-term. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Campbell?
Well, I'm very excited about this program because, and I love the name of Rio 1900, because I remember sitting in John McCain's office talking about Rio Imagine, which was his dream. And to me, this just ties in, because Goodyear has known forever that we would never have waterfront property where the river goes. It's just impossible unless you can figure out how to put water in there, which none of us can. But I just think it's a wonderful way to preserve that area and to make it user-friendly and to open it to the public. The trailheads are so important. I would like to offer to you a suggestion that perhaps along the trailhead or somewhere that you have signs that talk about the history of King Ranch, because we'd like to keep that name alive in Goodyear. That's so important to the history of Goodyear. And while I understand you naming it Rio 1900, it's fine, but perhaps you can do historical lessons, because people that go along the trail, they stop and read or sit and rest or whatever. And I just think it would just enhance that whole area. People would realize that this has been a gem forever. And while in 2006, we didn't really know what was going to develop, our plans were different, we were living differently, we didn't have the density we have now. So I appreciate you coming in with a whole brand new plan that's relevant today in today's market. It's really important that we do that, because we can't keep operating 30 years down the road, or before 30 years, I should say. And last but not least, I love the idea of executive housing. I love the idea of a resort. That's always been my dream, is to put a resort up there after going into Tucson many, many times to their resorts right at the base of those mountains. And they're just beautiful and they don't infringe on anyone. And I'm hoping that we'll be successful in having that because that will really make that area a destination place. And I want to thank Harvard for having this dream and realizing what this can come to. And we just thank you for your vision, and we hope to support you all the way. And don't be in a hurry to build it out. Just take your time.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Gillis.
I have loved this project, and you know, from the very, very beginning. For the last couple of years, we've been talking about it, and I've loved everything about it. I say that to you. I think you're sick of me saying it because I'm so excited about it. I have a home up in Estrella, and so, and I may want to move to this area eventually because I absolutely love it. I love everything about the build out and what's going to go on and the whole thing. I am really excited about the fact that you guys are donating a park, the schools, the fire station. I'm very excited about all of that because you didn't have to do that. So that's kind of a plus, and that's kind of showing the people that live in Estrella, such as myself, that you're willing to do that part of it. You're willing to give there, and I think that's a good thing. I love the executive housing, absolutely love that because we need it. And so I think that's good for the traveling nurses and doctors and stuff that are coming into town that need a place to stay. We don't have a lot of that here in Goodyear, and we've been asked to start putting more of it in. We've been asked a lot about putting more of it in, so I'm excited about doing some of that up there. I'm very excited about everything that Jim King had to say. Jim, you and your dad, everything that your dad meant, and I love the picture on the horse. That's amazing. And I think that I was a history buff in college and high school both. So I loved your story. I wish we had more time because I would have loved to have listened to you longer. I'm with Laura. I think if you could give a spiel on this whole thing, I think I would be one of the first ones in the front row to listen to you because I absolutely love that. Thank you very much. And prayers to you, and what a wonderful memory for your father. That's about it. I think it's a beautiful area. I love the fact that you've donated everything you've donated. I think it's great. I think it's going to be beautiful. Thank you very much. And you have done a fabulous job with this. And Harvard also. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor.
Yeah, not much more to be said, but I do appreciate all your hard work. I appreciate it. It's a beautiful area, and I really want to take advantage of it and take best uses of it as well. Resort would be fantastic. Executive housing would be fantastic. Thank you for listening to that, to us about that as well. And then I had a question maybe for Steve, but you probably know the answer. Is the route coming out of Cotton, off of Cotton, is that zoned for or set up for 2 lanes, 3 lanes across, or is that still in the works? Or I was curious if there's enough room for what that would look like in the future. If it is all built out one day, how are we set up well to be able to handle the traffic in and out of there?
I do know the answer, but
Do you?
Steve's smarter
Okay.
than me. He's smarter, so he gets the answer.
Yeah.
Watch what you say there. Mayor, Councilmember Hampton. The ultimate build out for Cotton Lane is planned for 3 lanes in each direction in that location. Our capital project will take it to 2 in each direction, which will be 1 more than we have today. And then ultimately, it'll be 3 in each direction.
Yeah, so make sure we're set up for the future, because I know a lot of residents, we're growing a lot, so the less road construction we can do in the future would be good, and I want to take down anything that's already there in the future, so we're prepared for the future, so thank you for that. Other than that, yeah, I think it's a great project. I'm on board with it. I'll be voting yes, and thank you to your team, so thank you.
Thank you.
You know, it's hard being last. A lot has been said here. What I really appreciate is you've taken the time, and a lot of your project deals with all the input you've received from people here on City Council. And I really do appreciate you doing that and sitting down and making those changes and working with us on City Council. The thing, though, that Wally had mentioned, with King Ranch and the history, on the trailheads. Think about doing something like that. It would add, I think, a little more, history to the city, also to the development. If you put on the trailhead some of the history that came with it, maybe in a picture of the horse, of his dad on the horse. I don't know. But anyway, it would be nice to put something, on the trailhead, because it's open to the public, so more public would understand the history of that particular piece of property. So with that, can we open it up for voting?
Thank you.
I don't have a vote on my screen, I'm sorry, it says low battery.
Councilmember,
I vote aye.
thank you.
Passes 7-0, thank you. Now, on the third one, it's all related, right? You've already done the presentation, so I still have to open the public hearing. Any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
We've already done all that. Anybody else in the audience like to speak? We've done that. Closed public hearing. Will the city clerk please read ordinance number 2026-1643 by title only?
Adopt ordinance number 2026-1643, conditionally rezoning approximately 1,940 acres of land, generally extending from Estrella Parkway to approximately the alignment of 187th Avenue and from the Gila River to the Estrella Residential Community, from the King Ranch Planned Area Development, PAD, to the Rio 1900 Planned Area Development, PAD, amending the zoning map of Goodyear.
Thank you. Do I have a motion and a second up on the board? Open for discussion. I guess we've already done that, correct? Don't see anything else. Open for vote.
I vote aye.
Passes 7-0. Thank you. Last public hearing is to consider a rezone of approximately 66.6 acres located northwest of West Celebrate Life Way and North Litchfield Road, known as Celebration Plaza, from Planned Area Development to Celebration Plaza First Amendment Planned Area Development. Open public hearing. Please introduce yourself for the public that's watching.
Good evening, Mayor Pizzillo and members of City Council. My name is Justin Gabrielson, Senior Planner here with the City of Goodyear. I'm here before you this evening with a request from Mark Reddy to request an amendment to a previously approved PAD known as Celebration Plaza. The project is located at the northwest corner of West Celebrate Life Way and North Litchfield Road. It is currently zoned PAD through the Celebration Plaza PAD, and Celebration Plaza consists of 66.6 acres and a mixture of underlying uses. We can see here the underlying uses on the site, as well as the location and surrounding area, with Interstate 10 to the north, Palm Valley Crossing to the east, Goodyear Commerce Center to the south, Airport Gateway to the west, and City of Hope tucked into the corner here. You have seen this project presented before you in the past. I presented this project in front of City Council back in March of 2025. However, due to concerns from City Council, the applicant decided to pull the project from review to make a few changes to it and resubmit at a later date. We received the resubmission from the applicant back in September of 2025. What was submitted to us back in September made a few changes to the previously presented PAD. It decreased the previously proposed drive-through limitation amendment from 2 standalone drive-throughs with unlimited end caps to a maximum of 3 drive-throughs with a minimum of 1 end cap, all through the use permit process, plus an additional request that was added since you last saw it, which is a decrease in required parking for medical office building. Currently, the site follows the city standards for all parking requirements. However, the applicant is requesting a change to something closer to other jurisdictions in the valley. The proposed amendment would change the required parking from 1 space per 150 square feet to 1 space for every 200 square feet of medical office building. Provided here is a chart with the history of the PAD amendments. We have what the current zoning is, what the applicant requested in March, what the applicant requested in September, and what Planning and Zoning's recommendation was. Planning and Zoning Commission voted 4-2 to approve the change of medical office parking, but not the allowed drive-throughs. If you continued with their recommendation, it would have the effect of decreasing the required parking for medical office, but keep the existing limitation for drive-throughs. Staff provided 3 potential options for Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation. Option 1, approve the decrease in required parking, but keep the drive-through limitation the same. Option 2, approve both the increase in the allowed drive-throughs and the reduction in parking. Option 3, deny the application, which will retain the existing zoning with no changes. And if council has any other options they have in mind, we can discuss that as well. Planning and Zoning Commission voted to approve option 1, which would reduce the required parking and maintain the current restrictions on drive-throughs. Staff recommends to continue with Planning and Zoning's recommendation of approval of option 1 with stipulations, which includes the reduction of parking but maintains the existing drive-through limitation of 1 maximum. That concludes my presentation. I am here for any questions. The applicant is also here with their own presentation and available for questions.
Okay, thank you. First of all, any speaker cards?
Yes, Mayor, we have one speaker card. Jeff Levi. Thank you.
Okay, he's not speaking, right? All right, the applicant, do you want to give a presentation or, go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Mark Reddy with RVI. I'm the land planner for this project and also the applicant. And for those of you that don't know, I was also the lead planner on the Rio 1900 project working with Harvard. So thank you for all the kind words and for your approval of the project. We're excited to continue moving that one forward. I've got Tom Blake here with me. He's the owner representative. I'm sitting here, so if there's any questions that I can't answer, I'll lean on him a little bit. So you probably know this project was originally approved in 2023. And since then, the developers, the owners have been working tirelessly, mainly to really solve the infrastructure problems. It's been a couple of years. We haven't done anything yet, but we actually have done quite a lot. You just haven't seen it. We've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. They've spent hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars doing planning, design, and engineering work on the project. And we finally now have the right partners working with us. And so we're anticipating moving forward very quickly once we get through this hearing process today to really get things moving forward with the various different projects. And I'll talk about some of them today. So as we were going through this process, once the original zoning was approved, we've been getting a lot of feedback from our retail partners. And as a result of the feedback that they've been getting as it relates to marketing the commercial property, we filed an amendment in 2024 to request some additional drive-throughs. At the time that we made the request, staff was supportive of that. We asked for 2 standalone drive-throughs and unlimited end caps. Staff was supportive. We also got a unanimous recommendation of approval from the Planning Commission. When we got to council, there were some concerns. And so we decided to table it so we could go back, regroup with our retail developers, talk about it a little more and see what we could do to try to address some of the concerns that council had. Before I get into the specifics, what I'd like to do is talk about the original plan and what we're not changing. The original plan, one of the primary elements of the original plan was the pedestrian connectivity elements. And one of the things that we heard from council and from staff was we wanted to develop a plan that was walkable for hospital patients, for the doctors and the employees there, not only to the medical office, the future medical office, but also to the private park that we're developing, as well as the commercial. None of that is changing with what we're asking for in this new request. So I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on that. The pedestrian connectivity is staying exactly the same. Whether we have 1 drive-through or 3 drive-throughs doesn't impact the walkability of the community and the pedestrian connectivity of the community. So none of that is changing. This is a concept for the commercial site plan. It's not the final plan. We're still working through some details. The commercial developers are still marketing the property and looking for users. But this is a plan that we expect something similar, and this includes a mix of uses. We've got a hotel on the north end of the site adjacent to the freeway. You can see some shops and restaurants. That second one from the bottom, or from the top, also includes what we call the end cap drive-through. That could be for a pharmacy, a dry cleaner, a restaurant that's tied to a larger building with multiple tenants. South of that, you see a standalone restaurant. South of that is a coffee shop with a drive-through and a sit-down component. And then south of that is another restaurant that has a sit-down component as well as a drive-through. And then at the south end is a convenience market and a fuel station. And you can see the pedestrian connectivity is again consistent with our overall plan. So what we're asking for today is to provide a little bit of relief on the condition that limits us to one single drive-through, to allow a total of 3 drive-throughs with one being an end cap. So 2 standalones and 1 end cap. And the end cap has to have at least 3 tenants in it. And this is really a response to a shift in market conditions and what we're hearing from our retail partners. What we really want to do is make sure that we get the best uses that provide the best opportunities for the folks that live in this area, for the folks that work in this area. And the concern is that we're limited in some of the uses that we can market and attract with this restriction on the property. A lot of new restaurants have options for drive-throughs. The Shake Shack right here around the corner is a perfect example of that. It's a really nice restaurant. They also have a drive-through component. The concern is if we sign a coffee shop, then we're done. We can't bring in a Shake Shack or another use that might be a great use for the property, but happens to have a drive-through or would like a drive-through component, a pharmacy. There's a lot of different uses that we could envision here that really would add value and quality to the community, but we would be completely restricted if we selected one user and then another great user came in and we couldn't offer or allow them to be here. So we're just asking for a little bit of a relief, not unlimited, which is what the normal commercial zoning has, but just a little bit of relief so that we can entertain multiple options and make sure that we can get the best uses. One of the things that we've heard from the hospital is they want more restaurants and dining. And that's one of the things that's going to hurt us the most with this condition, in our opinion, and our retail developers' opinion. And so again, we're not asking for unlimited, we're just asking for a little bit of relief on that. The second request is, and I'm really excited about this, we're now partnering with Ryan Companies, which is a large developer. They've done, in fact, they built this building here that we're in right now. They've been coordinating directly with the City of Hope for an expansion of the medical campus. I know this was an important issue with the council. You may recall there's a hybrid parcel that allows either office or multifamily. It's on the eastern end. Our goal has always been to develop all 3 parcels as medical office, but we just wanted the flexibility in case there wasn't enough demand. Ryan Companies is in escrow on the whole thing, including the hybrid parcel, to develop a large medical office complex that would be an extension of the hospital and provide support uses for the hospital. You can see on this sketch, this is not a final site plan, but this is the current version that we're working with. You can see the pedestrian connectivity that I talked about before. Most importantly, connectivity directly to the hospital. The first phase is the southern building, and we're working directly with the City of Hope to coordinate the design, the square footage, and everything that's going on with that unit, with that development. So what we're asking for here is what we found is that the City of Goodyear, in their zoning code for parking, they have an unusually high requirement for medical office. And in our experience, in the developer's experience, 1 space per 150 square feet will overpark the facility. What that does is it requires us to provide a lot more asphalt, a lot more parking, which means the square footage of the buildings gets smaller because we can't fit as much on the site. So we've done a lot of research on this, and there's some very prominent studies that back up our request. The most prominent is the Institute of Transportation Engineers that studies this around the country, and what they found is that at the peak time, the required parking for medical office is 1 space per 222 parking spaces. And the Urban Land Institute has a similar study that identifies the peak demand at 1 space per 250 square feet. We also looked at all the peer cities in this area, including Surprise, Peoria, Buckeye, Avondale, Glendale, and every one of them has standards that are either consistent or higher than what we're asking for, which is 1 per 200. So the City of Goodyear's requirement is much more restrictive and would force more parking than we need, which is really just a waste of space, and more asphalt and more heat island than we believe we need. And we've also talked with staff, and they're supportive of this request as well. So in conclusion, we're asking again for 2 things. We're asking for a little bit of relief on the stipulation for the drive-throughs from 1 to a total of 3, with 1 being an end cap, and then a reduction in the parking requirement from 1 per 150 to 1 per 200. And so we would request that you approve option 2 which is the applicant request. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. See where we at here. We got the speaker cards. Anybody in the audience like to speak? We'll go ahead and close the public hearing. City Clerk, please read ordinance number 2026-1644 by title only.
Adopt ordinance number 2026-1644, conditionally rezoning approximately 66.6 acres of property located at the northwest corner of West Celebrate Life Way and North Litchfield Road from Goodyear Celebration Plaza Planned Area Development to Celebration Plaza First Amended Planned Area Development dated December 2025, amending the zoning map of the city of Goodyear.
City Council, I motion a second to adopt the ordinance 2026-1644. I see a motion and a second up on the board. Open up for discussion. First one up, Councilmember Terry.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess for staff, I wanted to just touch on the parking really quickly. Do we know why is our parking different when it comes to medical office a little bit than other cities just generally? And has that been revisited at all? But at the same time, you know, I also get the concern if I go to a medical office, you know, you have a dozen, 24 employees, and then you need patients, and parking's hard to come by in medical office. I wanted to hear from staff when it came to this parking requirement. Are we fully comfortable with it when I know at City of Hope there's a lack of parking as it is? And then on the other end of that, if we're doing a stipulation here, why just for them? And are we looking at redoing this citywide? Because I do not like the idea of getting into a habit of special carve-outs every now and then. I'd prefer if we're going to give it to this company, we should do it to all. But there's kind of a two-part question. Are we comfortable with it? And then where are we at citywide?
Thank you, Mayor and Councilmember Terry. We are looking at that overall comprehensively as a part of the zoning ordinance update. So we'll have more information on what the staff recommendation will be as it relates to citywide parking coming up before you this spring.
Okay, so we are looking at that. And then when it comes to this specific case, despite, you know, sometimes, and not always, but sometimes a lack of parking in the City of Hope, which I know is a different property, it's to the south, but you know, I just wanted to see if that's addressed. How comfortable are we to ensure that there are enough places for employees and patients to park?
As it relates to where this is located on the land use map, we believe if there were any complications with parking, it would be isolated to one commercial center. The adjacent zoning areas are multifamily, which typically are gated and things of that nature. So we are pretty confident that if there are private issues with parking, that they would be handled on their side.
Okay. I'll let others speak to the commercial side. That's all.
I also just want to point out that City of Hope's also under a different parking standard than what medical office is.
Appreciate that.
Yep.
Okay, you're up.
Okay, thank you. Well, since I go to many medical appointments, I can never find parking in Peoria. I can never find parking in Surprise, close to where I'm supposed to go. So I'm really opposed to making our parking spaces not as many as we have today. It's bad enough now, some of the places that we go that we can't find parking. So I'm really not in favor of that, especially around a medical building, because people that are going there for either tests or a doctor appointment or something, and they need to be able to park. And if you don't have parking for them, where are they going to park? They can't park in City of Hope because there's not enough parking in City of Hope now. I go over to City of Hope 3-4 days a week. And if I'm late, I can't park in the front. I have to park in the back and then walk all the way around to the front because I'm not authorized going in any of the back doors. So you need to think about the patients, not, you know, the availability of parking. I know when I go to Sun City, I don't have a problem finding a place to park. Maybe they plan differently. I don't know. I noticed that on the list we used, Sun City was not even there. Do we know what their parking requirements are? Because that's where a bulk of our doctors and hospitals are.
Sun City would follow Maricopa County standards, but again, we'd have to look into each of those medical centers because
Yeah.
likely they could have been approved by a PED
Right.
and had their own specific
Yeah,
standards.
okay.
But we will look at that as part of the comprehensive.
Yeah, I just think, yeah, we really need to think about this, because whatever we do, we're going to affect the public for years to come. And if they have, if this is going to be an extension of the City of Hope, if it's just going to be their scientists doing experiments and things, they still have to have parking for enough of those employees. And sometimes they number a large number. And then if you have people coming in for the trials, you've got to add that up as well. I'm just really concerned about that. I'm not in favor of making our parking requirements different.
Thank you, Councilmember Campbell. We'll make sure to really look into those parking standards when we do discuss the parking changes with the zoning ordinance amendment.
Thank you.
Before I pass it on to the Vice Mayor, just real quick, is there a possibility that if we voted for the one space per 150 by the time it's bought and you get your study, we can go back in and retweak that?
What we would probably do if, thank you, Mayor, if we were to explore that, we would probably not include the parking reduction with the PAD amendment and instead just wait for the zoning ordinance.
So it's possible to address it at another time after you do your study, so to speak.
If we do the study and decide to not reduce the parking standards with the zoning ordinance, then no, we would have to come in with another PAD amendment. However, if we don't include the parking reduction with the PAD amendment today, and then in the future, the City of Goodyear zoning ordinance is updated to increase to 1 spot per 200 square feet, then this site would follow in suit because it follows the City of Goodyear zoning ordinance.
So if I understand you correctly, there's still a way to get to where they want after you do your study?
Yes.
Okay. All right, who's up next? Let's see, Vice Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. So, yeah, I'm okay with the change in the parking spaces for this, so I'm good with that. Especially only going 50 more square foot for this particular one. We'll talk about if we want to go higher, like the other cities at a future date. But I'm okay with that. And is this facility or the more medical research, is going to be a lot of individual patients? Is it more workforce going there to work as opposed to patient-based?
I can't, thank you, Vice Mayor. I can't speak on future tenants of the building. Ergo, if you don't have any questions for me, I can pass it back to the applicant.
I'll grab it if they're okay with coming up. And second question of that would be, is it only exclusive medical? That'd be for you guys. So.
Mayor, Vice Mayor. So first off, this isn't a 1,000 square foot building with 7 spots. Okay, this is a massive complex. It's going to be not only a hospital that has 700 people, which by the way is parked 1 per 400, I think. So when the hospital got approved, if it's crowded at some point, sometimes during the day, it has way less parking than the rest of this campus is going to have. Okay, so that shouldn't be an issue. But with, at some point, Ryan and companies who's done this a bunch, okay, they can't lease space if they don't have parking. Okay, they can manage the uses and the tenants. There's going to be admin stuff in these things, just like there is in the hospital, mixes in the spec buildings. This isn't going to be just drop off a patient and, every 15 minutes a new patient comes in. This will be easily managed to make sure it's not underparked. Okay. We're assured by Ryan companies, there'll be overflow parking between the uses. That's the benefit of having a big complex versus a smaller one. We don't know what the uses are, but if they want to get paid their monthly rent, they're going to manage the uses and the tenants.
Okay. I'm just curious on that. Okay. My battery's almost dead over here too, just FYI. So, and then 5% more power. And then, okay, yeah, I'm still okay with the parking there. I think it would be a great use. And that takes over on the original zoning C, Charlie and Delta, those 2 parcels that we labeled them as. Is that correct? Yeah, I think head shaking yes, so.
Yes.
All right, that's great. I think that's a great use for that. I really want more medical research, more medical here in Goodyear, and I think that'd be fantastic use right next to the hospital there. So I'm real excited about that. And it goes over to the other stuff, along E, Echo there. So I make sure, so you're looking for one, so before, we already permitted for one drive-through. And they want one end cap and then another drive-through is what we're really looking for. I love the end caps. I think those are great because they bring more smaller spaces for small business owners to start and do some things. Also, just your small uses, nail, hair, all the different uses, coffee shops, drive-throughs, all those kind of things like that. So I think I am supportive of all the end caps possible. So I'm not sure if it's a hybrid version, but maybe the one drive-through and then maybe 2 end caps. I'd love to see that because I'd like to see more of the smaller uses. I'm not sure if the applicant is open to that or not, but I'd feel better with that personally. So just because it was shortage of small spaces for businesses to use here in Goodyear. And I think they do really well. I see the Moe's, the Senior Taco. There's some other ones that I think are filled up pretty quickly and they're used they're used pretty well exclusively. So I'm okay with that. And I think I'm looking at other things that are along Litchfield Road there. I agree. I think we should use some more restaurants along there. I don't know if a gas station personally would do well because they've already shut down the one gas station. That's where next to the Burger King there. But we'll see what would like to go there. So that's what I'm suggesting right now is at least the one drive-through, and I'd like to see two end caps preferably. That's what I think. So all right,
You
thanks.
good? Councilmember Kano?
I'm just thinking about all the conversations we've had about this property, and there's lots of different ideas and lots of different visions. And the thing is, this is such a massive piece of land, and it's adjacent to I-10. It's when you get off at Dysart, you're getting it into Goodyear and Avondale. But when you enter Litchfield Road, that's clearly Goodyear, and it needs to look like Goodyear. And I was looking at this, you're going to have over 28 acres of multifamily, and it seemed that should drive some sufficient demand for your commercial property to be more than, I think what I'm afraid of, and when I saw planning and zoning, just line after line of standalone fast food restaurants. We've got too many of those. I'm kind of intrigued by the end cap idea. I think that's probably got a little bit more flexibility, ensures other usage. But I think that this is going to be a property that's going to be in high demand. When Buc-ee's comes in, I think you're going to drive a lot of traffic to Litchfield Road as a way to get around, as a way to go look for somewhere to eat because you can't sit down at Buc-ee's. And Celebrate Life Way in Litchfield, I think, is going to be the back way in and out. And I think you're going to see a lot of traffic there. And I know that quick serve restaurants are really popular, they're really demand, they're really easy. But I think what we've envisioned for this property is not just a line of quick serve restaurants. I know in your conceptual, you've got a hotel and things like that. That's lovely. But I've been around now, and now that it's in my second turn, I know that conceptuals are very much conceptual. Sure, you might try to go out and recruit a hotel, but it could turn out to be an auto parts store. And so it's all visionary, but you've got so much commercial. You've got the healthcare campus. You've got all that multifamily. It should drive a higher level of commercial there in terms of restaurants. And nobody's looking at like GSQ level restaurants. I think there's lots of family style, lots of casual dining, things that would be very attractive. I think as it is with two standalones, because all I'm thinking is fast food and the end cap. I mean, it's interesting because the planning and zoning, they went with the recommendation for one, and you're asking for the 3, which is a modification. So just wondering if there's a better way to find a compromise between that two. But I can't go with two standalone. I think when you look south of I-10, we've got several standalone fast foods. North of I-10, there's really not that many. We've got a couple drive-through restaurants, but a lot of them, when I think about the Chipotle or Five Guys, there's no drive-through. People park and they go in. And so anyway, those are my thoughts about that commercial. In terms of the parking, I think that Ryan Company is a great partner. I'm excited for what you have envisioned there, and that you really took to heart our thought that we didn't want more multifamily in that flex space. I think we've had a sufficient partnership with Ryan Company to trust their judgment on terms of what they think they would need for a successful business model for parking. I think your note about the City of Hope having one parking space per 400 is part of the 400 square feet is part of the problem that we have there, and we're not asking for that. So I would support the parking changes, but I'd like to see a bigger vision for the commercial. Thank you.
Councilwoman Gillis?
Can I talk to the applicant, please? Can you bring back up the slide with the commercial, please? Right, okay. So are you telling me that all those restaurants then are all drive-throughs, or is there one that's just a sit-down restaurant? That's what I want to see personally right there.
Yes, Councilman Gillis, if you look at the hotel, then the shops and pads, and then that first restaurant, that's a standalone, no drive-through, full sit-down.
The one in the middle?
Restaurant, the one in the middle.
Okay,
And then
good.
there's a coffee shop, and then there's a drive-through.
Okay, that's because it's really important, I think, to have a standalone restaurant and not have everything be drive-through, you know?
Yes, and again, this is a concept, but what you have to remember is this is a 13-acre site that's almost a quarter of a mile long.
Right.
And so even if we're limited to 3 with one being an end cap, it's not going to be a sea of drive-throughs.
Right.
It can't be because the site's way too big for that.
Right, I'm
So-
aware of that.
Yep.
And that's what, that was our big thing, I think, before, was we didn't want a sea of drive-throughs. And so, you know, as long as we've got at least one restaurant that is a sit-down, I'm good with that. I am absolutely, however, in agreement with Wally on the parking. I have an issue with the parking. I want to make sure that there's enough parking, and I know the doctor's appointments and things that she goes to, and I know she knows what she's talking about there. I also go to a lot of doctors in Surprise area, and I love the fact that there is never an issue with their parking over there. And we have had an issue with parking here. Since a couple of our parking garages have gone in, that has been better here. That has helped us out here at Civic Square. But I really believe over there needs to be more parking. It makes me very nervous to back off on that. So, but I'm good with this commercial as long as we have one sit-down restaurant and they're not all drive-through. I'm really good with that. And I'm really good with all of this medical space. I think it's wonderful. Thank you.
Councilmember Beckles?
Well, I wanted to listen to everybody. I personally have been back and forth on this particular issue. I'm okay with the parking, but the commercial side of it, I think that when you start talking, first of all, when you start talking about walkable, you're not gonna see too many people walk in June through September. They're gonna wanna drive there. But I'm okay with the, with what Councilmember Kano says about the commercial space. And I would like to see that we need more sit-down restaurants. But this has been a tough one, and I've listened to, prior to me being on council, I've listened to this, and I've met with the developer twice, and I'm still sort of fluctuating as we continue to hear what's going on. Thank you.
Did you still want something?
I'm over with the parking, but really for the other council members, can you bring up the slide that talked about the comparisons between the city's parking and other cities' parking in this parking? So you only want 50 more square feet for this location, which puts us exactly the same as Surprise and exactly the same as Peoria, correct?
Yes, Vice Mayor. It would be the same as Surprise, Peoria, Avondale, as well as Gilbert.
Okay, I just wanted to point that out. So it's 50, rather than 50 square feet more, which is on the low end of our peer cities. So, okay, just wanted to clarify that. And then I'm not sure how to do this with the options and things like that.
Hold on, we've got Councilmember Terry back.
I'll let you do that, Vice Mayor. One more question I wanted to clarify. Parcel D, you said, the developer said Ryan, you're looking to close on that as part of medical office. I don't know if there's a way. I would be in favor of allowing the parking and what you're asking for on the commercial side, if that at all could be locked in as medical office instead of the multifamily. But I know that's adding more, and there's a lot of discussion, and everybody's all over the place. But I wanted to ask, you said you're close to closing on parcel D, is that correct?
So Mayor, Councilmember Terry, Ryan Companies has it in escrow, and they've got a long escrow, and it's mainly dependent on the City of Hope. We've owned this land a long time, and I want to tie in some of the other comments, if you'll give me a little bit of latitude here. You know, we've owned this land, and we being the owner that I represent since 2008, 2010, a long time. We've waited, we've worked with your economic development group, try to get people in here, groups in here. It just, you know, it just didn't happen. So, and we're standing in a building that we would have loved to had built over there. Okay, you guys jumped over us, you came here. Totally fine, of course. But this is the type of building we're competing with, okay? And the land on the north side of the freeway, okay? So we're doing everything we can to make this thing work. And again, City of Hope, their expansion is like a gift that it's everything you guys wanted, the previous councils wanted, and we've got this point in time to do that, okay? So the spec buildings that Ryan will build the medical office north of there would be phase 2. So getting to your question on the timing, it really all is when the City of Hope is pulling the trigger and ready to expand. They say now is the time, but right now it's conceptual. They've spent a lot of money, but nothing to build the thing yet. So we're as fast as we can, but candidly, we're gonna extend with them if they need more time because they're the right user, okay? So in terms of some of the other things, of course we want restaurants. I'd like for Fox to come down here and build all this beautiful stuff. Same thing, we've had this thing listed with brokers for quite a while, okay? It's not like our option is drive-through or A-plus sit-down restaurants, okay? We want quality, okay? We did that on the Formation 10, the industrial stuff. The City of Hope expansion is gonna be quality. We've got a first-class builder that we're close to getting an escrow with to do townhomes, which I heard on the last deal is stuff we need, okay? You know, what we're asking for on the drive-through is not rows of drive-throughs. We've got 8 or 9 pads. We're asking for up to 2 standalones. But to Vice Mayor Hampton's point, yeah, we're gonna try to get sit-down restaurant. We don't want any, that's fine. We're gonna do our best. And if we can get 3 end caps, then we do that instead of the 1. But we gotta have a little bit of flexibility, okay? We have to. I could just, you know, we can put a second. If we don't, it's not, okay, we'll just wait for Fox. It'll be a second hotel potentially, or just shops or things like that. We gave you our word when we struck a deal with the mayor 2 years ago, which was the staff's recommendation on that hybrid piece, okay? We went from 18 months to 2 years, but we gave you our word. We're gonna do everything we can to get medical office, okay? We were told, well, you'll probably sell it on 2 years and a day. Okay, we're 3 years past, and we haven't done apartments on that thing. We've got it in escrow with a group, okay? A great user. It's at least gonna be 4 years that we wouldn't do it. At some point in time, though, we can't release it because the market's gonna tell us what the user's gonna be ultimately on that thing, okay? It's no different than what we're trying to say on the drive-throughs, which is, we're just asking for some flexibility. As I drive into this complex, it's not just the Shake Shack, it's that cool-looking chicken place, okay, with the white building that has a drive-up window. It's Slim Chicken across the street that has a drive-up window. It's Freddy's that's gonna be in here that has a drive-up window. It's the other stuff along the other full diamond interchanges. We've been the one that's, for some reason, we're getting one drive-through. We're just asking for some flexibility. We're gonna try to get sit-down restaurants. We're gonna try to do it, but we're just asking for some flexibility to get, candidly, what everybody else gets. Okay, thank you.
No, that's good. I was probing to see how close they were on parcel D, so, thank you.
Can you pull up again the options that are there? Let me ask this question. If we go with their option that they want and it goes down and it can't come back before us for what?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I think you may be referring to, and I'm looking over to the city attorney, that if you deny a request, it can't be reheard as the same request for 1 year. They could possibly make modifications, bring a different request to you, though. So the options, just to reiterate, the option and the motion on the floor before you right now is to approve the reduction in parking and keep the drive-throughs the same, so only one drive-through. That is the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation to you and was staff's recommendation. And so you would need to amend the motion if you wanted to do one of the other options.
Let me ask you this question, and maybe it's one for the attorney as far as that goes. If we approve, because if we kill the other option, because there's been stuff back and forth on there, they couldn't bring it back for another year, correct? That's what I'm hearing.
In the same form.
In the same form. But when another form question I'm asking the attorney is if we did the one, okay, like is recommended, and say he gets somebody who comes in that we want, that happens to be a second one on that slot, can he come back in and amend that one piece?
So if I'm understanding, if you did the one, you're talking about the parking restrictions. Is that correct?
No, the parking restrictions, and what's being recommended right now is increasing to what, 200?
Right.
And one drive-through.
Mhm.
Okay, say if that was recommended, because my feel is that's probably where most of the council is going right now, unless I'm wrong, is can they come back later if they find something that happens to be that a second one that we would like to see there for whatever reason, he could come back in and amend it. My concern is if we go with the other option and we kill it, you can't bring it back for a year.
Correct, but if you approve it and they come back with another, you have to start the PAD process over again.
All
'Cause
over
it's a
again,
PAD
we can't
amendment.
just focus on that one.
It would be a PAD amendment and you'd have to go through the zoning process.
Interesting, okay. Well, I'm not sure where everybody is, to be honest with you on here, huh? Yeah. Say that?
I got another question for the
Go ahead,
user.
go ahead.
So I'm thinking I liked option 2, but would it help at all if I did 2 end caps versus three drive-throughs but 2 to be end caps? Would that give you enough flexibility?
I think the answer is something better than nothing, yes. So
Okay.
it doesn't give us any more of the ones I've given as an example.
Yeah.
Which is Shake Shacks, we can't do those. We can't do the most common thing that's happening in the market. We can't do that. We can still do one.
Do one
But,
of
you know,
those.
again, the end caps, yeah, we could do, instead of just a coffee on one, you know, we could have a coffee in the pharmacy window or something on those end caps, and then one drive-through. So
I guess we're just worried, to Councilmember Kano's point, that it turns into something that we don't like, that we don't want, which
well, it
is
can't.
hard.
It
It's
can't.
hard.
It could last time.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, P and Z last time voted, you know, we mentioned, well, P and Z went this way. Last time P and Z voted for unlimited ones, so did
Yeah.
the staff.
Yeah.
So, and you guys went against it, and I think we tried to redo this thing.
Yeah.
So, I think yes, something's better than nothing, but it's still, we can't do what the fear of the council is because we've got 8 or 9 pads and all we can do is 2 standalones, period, even if they didn't have a sit-down option.
Okay. Okay. So do we make them?
Well, let me see,
I had
Councilmember Terry.
just one more question for the, I guess for the attorney here. I see this written where, you know, minimum 2 drive-throughs and caps with use permits. To the point the mayor was getting at earlier, with the use permits, do they have to come to us for these use permits like other use permits? So each individual one would still go through the use permit process that we can either accept or deny at the time? So this, or are those allowed without those hearings for those use permits? So if the pad allows for 3, but those 3 would still individually come to us, is that correct? Or are these allowed without coming to us?
We made some modifications. I'm not sure about the.
Because I think that would make a
It's
big
been on
difference
residential.
if we have the ability to individually look at those as it comes along.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Terry. This PED requires they go through the use permit process.
You're right. But remember, when you look at a use permit, you can't look at who the user is. You can only look at circulation, traffic, that sort of thing. So it doesn't give you as much flexibility as you may want there.
Yeah, I'm not talking about the user, it's more the design of, you know, what
Correct.
style of drive-through.
It still gets you another look at it though, right, City
It
Attorney?
does, with a limited defined criteria.
I'm okay with option 2.
All right, I think the fact that it's come back, we'll see how it goes. Can I get a motion and a second? For, that's what they're recommending is, are you recommending option 2?
No, that's not what's in front of you
Okay, so
today.
So I'm gonna.
he's gonna mount it.
I'd like to move to do option 2.
Okay. So you're making an amendment.
I
for
can make an
option 2.
amendment to option 2.
Right, so you need a second on that.
So then I need someone to
discuss, and
second
then-
me for that.
So
Okay,
you made an amendment for option 2 as laid out in the presentation,
So we
which
can
is
talk
the
about it.
maximum of 3 drive-throughs with a minimum of 1 end cap with use permit and 1 space for 200 square feet of
Yes.
medical. That's the proposed amendment. You would need a second, then you discuss the amendment.
I'll second it.
okay, we got a second on the board, okay?
Mayor, council, if you give me just a moment, we can do that on the system here. Oops. Motion. Oops.
Option 2.
Just a mess.
Yeah.
No, option 2, what
looking
they're
at
asking
option 2
for,
right now.
but it's gonna require a use permit to come back.
Yeah.
But it's what
That's
they
what-
want.
Vice Mayor Hampton, are you able to motion
Do you mean do it again?
on your voting system?
I see the voting system. There's nothing to do yet on it. It says motion to amend option 2, but I don't see a,
Yep,
there it is. Now I hit the motion button. Trey can hit the second button.
Try to get the second?
Katie, can we get page 8 of the staff presentation on this up? It has those options listed.
It's
Yeah,
up there.
I do like that it's coming back with a use permit.
Okay, now, we've got it on the board, right?
Yeah, so.
We can open it up?
So I can talk if I want, if you want me to. Yeah, so I'm on board with the square foot change, taking it to 200, which is the same as Peoria and Surprise. And then option 2, I'm okay with the 3 drives with unlimited, at least 1 end cap of those 3. So we're giving them 2 with 1 end cap as the third option. But they're all gonna come to us back with a use permit, so we can look at it a second, swipe at it at a later date. Well, hopefully they might not, just all standalone restaurants, but we'll see what happens.
Okay. Anything else? Can we open up for a vote? Passes 4-3. Okay,
So Mr. Mayor,
All
you're
right.
back to the main motion as amended, which is the option 2.
We good?
You need to vote on that,
Oh, we have to vote what, on the
main motion.
main motion?
Yep.
All right, open it up. This is the main motion that was,
You've amended the main motion. This now includes option 2,
Okay.
which is the 3 drive-throughs and the parking standard of 1 space for 200 square feet
Okay.
of medical office.
so now what are we voting on?
Your main motion incorporating that amendment.
Oh, incorporating that amendment.
Yes.
Right,
Reaffirming the second.
correct. Again, same thing, 4-3. Pass 4-3. Okay? All right. Now, we have one item on the business to consider. Council Compensation Committee recommendations for the compensation for mayor, vice mayor, and council members. Go ahead, you're up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Lyman Lockett, Human Resources Director. The Council Compensation Committee has been working feverishly over the last couple of months, working on their review of elected officials' salaries. Tonight, they're here to present their recommendation. Before I turn things over to our chair, Susan Smelser, we have one of our council or one of our Compensation Committee members present, and that's Bob Payne. Just wanted to point him out. And with that, I'll turn things over to the chair, Susan, for the presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Pizzillo, Vice Mayor Hampton, and council members. On behalf of myself and the other members of the committee, I thank you for allowing us to present tonight. The Council Compensation Committee was established in 2021 as part of the revision of the city charter. It is the responsibility of this committee to review the compensation of elected officials of the city every 2 years and to recommend changes if deemed appropriate. Compensation was last reviewed in 2023 with a recommendation made and approved in early 2024 for a 5% increase, which was effective July 2024. It should be noted that this 5% increase was for a 2-year period, so mathematically, this equated to 2.5% per year. In accordance with the city charter's 2-year review requirement, the committee met in November and December to assess the council's current compensation. As in the past, we evaluated numerous factors, including a comparison of elected officials' compensation to survey data of the 11 benchmark cities in the Phoenix metro area. We also considered the time and effort invested in their roles, the economic growth of Goodyear that they've realized over the past 2 years, and inflation rate data of both the U.S. and the state of Arizona. Despite the 5% increase enacted 2 years ago, the City of Goodyear compensation for elected officials still falls short of the market average when compared to the benchmark cities. In fact, in most cases, it is below what was observed during our last review. What does this mean? The market average rose more than the City of Goodyear itself over the past 2 years. The mayor's compensation is currently 56.7% of the market average. 2 years ago, it was 60.7%. The vice mayor is 56.5% of the market average. Last time it was 56.4%, so essentially this is the same. And council members have fallen to 37.1% of the market average. 2 years ago, it was 41%. To reiterate, trend analysis indicates a widening gap between the City of Goodyear council compensations and benchmark city averages over time. While we believe a compensation increase adjustment of greater than 5% is justified, the committee felt the required referendum to do so should not be considered until the next periodic review. It is therefore our current recommendation that the mayor, vice mayor, and council members each receive an increase of 5% to their existing salaries effective July 2026. The total annual budget impact to the city would only be $5,870. While this increase still does not allow them to be on par with the benchmark cities, it does show a good faith effort to recognize the work they are doing on behalf of the residents of the city. We put our recommendation forth for your consideration and approval and adoption of the ordinance that would enact the changes. If you have any questions, we'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you. Any speaker cards?
No, Mayor.
Anybody in the audience like to speak? The city clerk, please read resolution number 2026-2504 by title only.
Adopt resolution number 2026-2504, accepting the council compensation committee's recommendation and approve an annual compensation increase of 5.0% for the mayor, vice mayor, and each of the council members, and provide for an effective date.
Can I get a motion in a second for 2026-2504? I got a motion on the board. I also see a second on the board. Councilmember Terry.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to make a comment here. Thank you for the work that you and your committee do. I appreciate, your recommendation last time. Obviously, voters said otherwise, and respecting that when you come forward. But I would just say that, see the number here, 37% of the market average is, well, it's not like anybody up here does any less work than some of the other cities. Some of us have other jobs. Some of us have primary jobs as well. And the work required is a major limiting factor in people running for this office. There's so much work involved, but at the same time, I know there's not a single person up here who's in it based off of a couple $100, which breaks down to maybe $20 a month for the work that we do in addition. So I just want to thank you for your work there, and just, it's not why I do it. It's not why anybody up here does it. But I do know for a fact it is a major limiting factor for people potentially running for this office. So just thank you for that.
Councilwoman Gillis.
Just to add to that, I want to be clear that I do not blame the voters for not voting for an increase to our salaries whatsoever. I believe the voters were not totally educated in what was going on and what we were trying to put out there, and I think that was on us. I think that we did not make it clear. It was not advocated appropriately like it should have been. And so that's on us. That's not on the voters. So thank you for what you do, and thanks to the voters for what they do. And that really is up to us next time to be more clear about what we're doing and what we're putting out there.
Councilmember Terry.
2 seconds just to add on that. When we do come forward, assuming you're there and city manager, somewhere down the road, I would like this taken out of our hands at some point. So I think the last one, as Councilwoman Gillis was saying, that way we're not voting on, I don't want to do that. But when this comes forward again, taking this out of our hands and making sure that it's the committee and then the voter, it's out of our hands, I think is the best long-term solution.
Anything else? Well, then let's open it up for a vote. 7-0. Thank you. I appreciate all you do. I really do. Thank you. Okay. Council have any comments, commendations, reports on current events? Only want to add one thing. Sunday, I was at a Eagle Scout swearing in 2 young men. Very great. And I didn't realize only 4% of scouts actually make it to the Eagle Scout level. 4%. And perseverance and whatever. So I feel really good when you turn on the set, all the discourse and whatever goes around through the country. I feel really good seeing those kind of people coming up through the line. They are our future leaders. So it feels a little better in my heart seeing that coming up the ranks now into the community. City manager, you got anything?
Mr. Mayor, I do not have anything to report. Thank you.
All right, great. Next meeting will be February 2, 2026. No further business. Meeting's adjourned.